The Senate has moved one step closer to fully funding DHS after the historic months-long shutdown. In an overnight vote-a-rama last night, Senate Republicans passed a budget resolution in a 50-48 vote without help from Democrats. CBS News congressional correspondent Caitlin Huey-Burns joins us now from Capitol Hill to break it all down. So, first of all, people, this Washington insider speak, Caitlin, people are like, what is vote-a-rama? Break that down for our viewers, and what does this mean for restoring funding to those affected agencies?
Yeah, I was going to say, if your eyes haven't glazed over and you haven't changed the channel yet, thank you. Because covering this place, there's so much procedure, so much jargon. And let's try to break through it. First of all, the too long didn't read of all of this is that nothing has passed. We're not really any step closer to refunding DHS. So people are still waiting for their paychecks. And paychecks for TSA officers that were funded by the executive branch, those are set to run out, guys, by Friday. So there's a lot of work to do here. But basically, the reason that we're in this position is House Republicans said they're not going to pass a DHS funding bill until the Senate takes up a longer-term funding resolution. So that's what the Senate was trying to do last night. And what the Senate passed last night is basically just a framework to fund DHS and Customs and Border Patrol for the next 3 years. So they're taking up that process in the Senate as a way to kind of get the House to fund the shorter-term DHS funding bill. So there's a lot of work to get through, but basically this is a story about how the two chambers really are trying to pressure one another, and there's still a lot of work left to do in terms of funding the Department of Homeland Security. Remember, we're in the longest shutdown of DHS in the agency's history. It's 69 days, I think, 68 days today. And so basically what has to happen is the Senate was essentially trying to pressure the House. So two different things, but if you are still with me here, nothing has passed into law. This is just a framework for a longer term deal.
Well, to be clear, we are always still with you. No one's eyes should glaze over because CHB, you always do such an excellent job of explaining things to someone like me who is not, familiar with all the Washington insider-esque type things. But it sounds like nothing. But did Democrats get anything out of this vote?
Yeah, it's a really good question, Kelly, because remember, the reason that the DHS shutdown happened in the first place was because Democrats said that they wanted reforms to ICE and CBP after the shootings in Minneapolis. They said, we're not going to support longer-term funding for the agency unless these reforms are put in place. And remember, they had a list of demands. Basically, none of those demands were met, and Republicans said, okay, we'll come up with a proposal to fund basically the rest of the agency and then fund ICE separately in an even longer term bill. A 3-year extension is essentially what they're looking at now. So, I posed this question to Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer a couple of days ago. This has been the longest shutdown in history. You didn't get the reforms that you want. You aren't going to get the guardrails that you wanted to be put in place. In fact, you're likely to get funding for the agency for the next 3 years without any reforms. He said it was important to make this case that Democrats were united in pushing these reforms, and they'll make this case to the American people. But it is a good question, Kelly. The longest shutdown in this agency's history, and really nothing to show for it except for a lot of people missing paychecks and having to show up for work anyway.
All right, Caitlin Huey-Burns, making it illuminating and interesting. Caitlin, as always, we appreciate it.
Sorry, I don't have many answers for you.
No, it's all good. You made it fun. Thank you.